So the last thing in the stoichiometry chapter is calculating what's known as percent yield. And percent yield compares the amount of product that's actually made to the amount of product that's predicted by calculation or by a stoichiometry problem. Calculating the percent yield involves knowing two things. The first thing you have to know is the theoretical yield. The theoretical yield is the maximum amount of product that can be made from a given amount of starting material. So that's your calculated yield. It's what you've always been calculating when you figure out the amount of a product in stoichiometry. Whether you calculate it in grams or moles, it's what you've been calculating. The actual yield is the amount of product that's really made in a reaction. It would be made in the lab. If you're doing a problem, the actual yield is given to you, unless you happen to be solving for the actual yield. But if you're looking for the percent yield, it has to be given to you because you weren't working in the lab. Percent yield is calculated by taking the actual yield divided by the theoretical yield and multiplying the answer to that division problem by 100. The theoretical yield is almost always greater than the actual yield. Sometimes in the lab, you might get an actual yield of product that's higher because it's wet, but that would be the only time. In the book, the theoretical yield is always the larger number. You can do an easy problem or you can do a hard problem with this. If the actual yield and the theoretical yield are both given to you, it makes for a quite easy problem. If you have to find the theoretical yield, it's a little bit harder. So let's start with an easy one. Find the percent yield. If the theoretical yield is 83.1 grams of solid. We're not even going to say what it is. And the actual yield is 50.2 grams of solid. Now, it may talk about a student making this much in lab in a problem, or a student producing this much and he or she expected to find this much. So you may have to figure out the actual yield from context. It may not say the actual yield is. But to do the problem, I would find the actual yield, 50.2 grams. I divide by the theoretical yield, which is given here, 83.1 grams. I'd multiply it by 100. So doing the math, 50.2 divided by 83.1 times 100 gives me a percent yield of 64.4%. So that's an easy one. Expect one of those on your chapter exam. More difficult one is one where you actually have to find the theoretical yield. So let's divide this and see if I can get it all on one paper. Suppose you have the reaction CO plus 2H2 produces CH3OH. I have 75 grams of carbon monoxide, excess H2, and the actual yield of CH3OH, that actually says actual yield, believe it or not. CH3OH is equal to 68.4 grams. Okay, so I have the actual yield, the thing I said you'd always need to have. Now I have to find out how much I should be making of this. So this is a grams to grams problem. CO is A, CH3OH or methanol is B. I start with the grams of A, 75 grams of CO. Going to divide by the molar mass of CO. 1 mole of CO weighs 28 grams. Now the mole ratio of CH3 to CO is 1 to 1. 1 CH3OH to 1 CO2 or CO. Lastly, I'm going to multiply by the molar mass of methanol, CH3OH, which is 32 grams, in 1 mole, CH3OH. Okay, this is different from that. So I'm going to take the 75, divide by 28, multiply by 1, and then multiply by 32. That's going to give me 85.7 grams of CH3OH, which is my theoretical yield. Then to find the percent yield, I use this equation up here. Percent is actual, 68.4 grams, over theoretical, 85.7 grams, times 100, gives me 79.8%. Now, there's one other thing you could be asked to do. Sometimes they ask you to find the percent yield. Okay, so let's play around with this equation. Let's see, I want to know, I have the percent yield is equal to 82.6%. The theoretical yield is equal to 27 grams. And the question is, what is the actual yield? Okay, we have percent yield is actual divided by theoretical times 100. Okay, I'm looking for the actual yield. So what I want to do is multiply both sides of the equation by the theoretical yield. So I have percent yield times theoretical equals actual times 100. I want to get the actual by itself. I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 100. Percent yield times theoretical divided by 100 equals actual. And now I'm going to plug the numbers in. 82.6%, whoops, 82.6% divided by 100 times the theoretical yield, which is 27 grams. So that's 0.826 times 27, which gives me 22.3 grams as my actual yield. You could have avoided some of this by realizing that you could have just divided 82.6 by 100 and had a fractional yield, but this will do it.